The hidden artifact. Eloan brushed the dust off her hands as she stood before the ancient stone ruins nestled deep within the forest. The sun filtered through the dense canopy above, casting dappled shadows on the ground. She had always been drawn to these forgotten places, where history whispered through the wind and secrets lay buried beneath layers of time. Today was different, today felt significant. As an archaeologist, Eloan had dedicated her life to uncovering the past, but this particular excavation had stirred something inside her, a sense of urgency she couldn't quite place. She glanced at her team, who were busy cataloging artifacts and taking measurements. "Hey, can you help me over here?" one of her colleagues called out, breaking her concentration. Eloan walked over to find him kneeling beside a large stone slab covered in intricate carvings. "Look at this," he said, pointing at a symbol that resembled a spiral intertwined with stars. "It's unlike anything we've seen before." Intrigued, Eloan knelt beside him and examined the carvings closely. The symbols seemed to pulse with energy as if they held a story waiting to be told. "We need to document this," she said excitedly, pulling out her camera. As she snapped pictures, something glimmered in the dirt nearby. Eloan's heart raced as she reached down and unearthed a small object, a ring made of an unfamiliar metal that shimmered in hues of blue and silver. It felt warm against her skin as she slipped it onto her finger. "Is that what I think it is?" her colleague asked, his eyes wide with disbelief. "I don't know," Eloan replied, mesmerized by the ring's beauty and mystery. "But I have a feeling it's important." That night, after returning to camp, Eloan studied the ring under the soft glow of her lantern. The markings on it mirrored those on the stone slab, an undeniable connection that sent shivers down her spine. She couldn't shake off the feeling that this was more than just an artifact, it was a key to something greater. Suddenly, her phone buzzed on the table beside her. It was a message from an unknown number: "You have something that doesn't belong to you. Return it before it's too late." Eloan's pulse quickened as she stared at the screen in disbelief. Who could possibly know about the ring? She dismissed it as a prank but felt unease settle in her stomach. The next day brought more surprises when Eloan received an unexpected visitor, Jax, a journalist known for his skeptical views on archaeology and ancient artifacts. "What brings you here?" Eloan asked warily as he approached her tent. "I heard rumors about your discovery," Jax replied casually but with an intensity in his eyes that made Eloan uneasy. "I wanted to see it for myself." Eloan hesitated but eventually revealed the ring she had found. Jax examined it closely, his brow furrowing in concentration. "This isn't just any old relic," he said slowly. "There are stories about rings like this, ones that grant power or open gateways." "Stories?" Eloan echoed skeptically. "You mean myths?" "Maybe," Jax admitted with a shrug. "But myths often have roots in reality." As they spoke, shadows began to creep around them, dark figures lurking at the edge of the forest seemed to watch their every move. Eloan felt a chill run down her spine, something was definitely off. Suddenly, one of her team members rushed into their camp, panic etched across his face. "Eloan! We need to leave now. There are people coming, dangerous people." "What do you mean?" Eloan asked sharply. "They're asking about you, and about that ring," he gasped. Without waiting for another word, Eloan grabbed Jax's arm and pulled him toward their vehicle. "We need to get out of here." As they sped away from the site, Jax glanced nervously at Eloan. "What did you get us into?" "I don't know," she admitted, gripping the steering wheel tightly as they navigated through winding roads away from danger. "But I intend to find out." The tension hung thick in the air as they drove into town, uncertainty looming over them like dark clouds ready to burst forth with rain. This marks part 1 of our story titled, "The Alien Ring Everyone Was Searching For." Secretly worn by a human. In this segment, we are introduced to Eloan, an archaeologist who uncovers an ancient ring with mysterious powers while exploring forgotten ruins alongside Jax, a skeptical journalist who becomes entwined in her quest for answers amidst impending danger. The arrival of shadows. As dusk settled over the town, Eloan and Jax found themselves in a dimly lit diner, the kind that had seen better days. The neon sign flickered outside, casting a soft glow on their anxious faces. They had managed to escape the ruins, but the feeling of being pursued lingered heavily in the air. "Do you think they followed us?" Jax asked, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting dark figures to emerge from the shadows. "I don't know," Eloan replied, her fingers nervously tracing the outline of the ring on her finger. "But we can't stay here for long. We need to figure out what this ring is and why it's so important." Jax leaned back in his seat, arms crossed. "You're serious about this, aren't you? You think there's something special about it?" Eloan nodded. "The symbols on it match those on the stone slab we found. There's a connection, and I need to understand it." Just then, their conversation was interrupted by a loud crash outside. They both jumped up and rushed to the window. A black SUV screeched to a halt in front of the diner, and several figures in dark clothing spilled out, scanning the area with intense expressions. "Who are they?" Jax whispered, his voice barely audible. "I don't know," Eloan replied, her heart racing. "But I think they're here for the ring." Without thinking, she grabbed Jax's arm and pulled him toward the back exit of the diner. They slipped out just as the door swung open with a bang, and the figures rushed inside. "Quick!" Eloan urged as they dashed down an alleyway behind the diner. They could hear voices shouting behind them. "Split up," one of the pursuers yelled. "They can't have gone far." Eloan led Jax through a maze of alleys, her mind racing with possibilities. Where could they hide? How could they escape? "We need to find somewhere safe," Jax said breathlessly as they turned a corner. "There's an old bookstore nearby," Eloan suggested. "We can hide there for a while." They reached the bookstore just as heavy footsteps echoed behind them. Eloan pushed open the door and pulled Jax inside, closing it quietly behind them. The musty smell of old paper filled their nostrils as they crouched behind a tall shelf. "Do you think they saw us?" Jax asked, peering through a gap in the shelves. "I hope not," Eloan whispered back. "But we can't stay here forever." As they waited in silence, Eloan's mind raced with thoughts about the ring. What power did it hold? Why were these people after it? She felt an overwhelming urge to uncover its secrets. After several tense minutes, they heard footsteps approaching. The door creaked open slowly, and a figure stepped inside, a woman with striking features and piercing green eyes. "Are you two okay?" she asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Eloan recognized her from a news article she had read, Mira, a brilliant hacker known for exposing corruption and crime networks online. "What are you doing here?" Eloan asked cautiously. "I saw what happened at the excavation site," Mira replied, glancing nervously toward the door. "I've been tracking those people for weeks. They're dangerous." "Why would they want us?" Jax questioned. "They're after that ring," Mira said firmly, pointing at Eloan's hand. "I've seen similar artifacts before, ones that can manipulate energy or even time itself." Eloan's heart raced at Mira's words. "You know what it can do?" "I have my theories," Mira replied cryptically. "But right now, we need to get out of here before they find us." Eloan exchanged glances with Jax. They needed all the help they could get. "Okay," she said finally. "What's your plan?" Mira led them through a back door that opened into an alleyway behind the bookstore. The night air was cool against their skin as they stepped outside. "We can use my van," Mira said urgently. "It's parked around the corner." As they hurried down the street, Eloan couldn't shake off her unease. The weight of the ring on her finger felt heavier than ever before. Suddenly, gunshots rang out in the distance, causing them all to freeze in place. "They're close!" Jax exclaimed, panic rising in his voice. "Move!" Mira shouted as she sprinted toward her van parked under a flickering streetlight. They jumped inside just as another shot echoed through the night air. Mira quickly started the engine and sped away from the scene before anyone could spot them. "What do we do now?" Jax asked breathlessly as he glanced back nervously. "We need to figure out what this ring is," Mira said decisively while keeping her eyes on the road ahead. "And I have an idea where we can start looking." Eloan felt a surge of hope mixed with fear as she listened to Myra's plan unfold, a plan that would take them deep into a world filled with secrets and dangers beyond anything she had ever imagined. As they drove through winding streets illuminated by streetlights casting long shadows, Eloan couldn't help but wonder what awaited them at their next destination, and whether they would uncover answers or fall deeper into peril. The chase begins. A new alliance. As Mira maneuvered the van through the winding streets, Eloan and Jax exchanged worried glances. The adrenaline from their narrow escape was still coursing through their veins, but they knew the danger was far from over. Myra's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, her focus unwavering as she navigated the dimly lit roads. "Where are we headed?" Jax asked, trying to keep his voice steady despite the tension in the air. "To a safe house," Mira replied. "It's an old friend's place. He knows how to deal with situations like this." Eloan felt a mix of gratitude and apprehension. They were relying on someone they had never met, but there was little choice. The ring on her finger felt heavier than ever, as if it were aware of the chaos surrounding them. The safe house. After what felt like an eternity, they arrived at a modest house on the outskirts of town. It looked unassuming, with overgrown bushes and peeling paint, but Eloan sensed that it held secrets of its own. Mira parked the van and led them inside. The interior was cluttered but cozy, filled with bookshelves and strange artifacts that hinted at a life steeped in adventure. "Stay close," Mira warned as she moved toward a door at the back of the house. Inside, they found a man in his late 30s with tousled hair and sharp blue eyes. "Mira! You made it," he exclaimed, pulling her into a brief hug before his gaze shifted to Eloan and Jax. "And who are these friends?" "This is Eloan and Jax," Mira introduced them quickly. "We need your help." "Of course," he said, his expression turning serious. "I'm Theo." "What's going on?" "Unraveling secrets." As they settled into the living room, Eloan took a deep breath and recounted their harrowing experience, the discovery of the ring, the mysterious message, and their narrow escape from the pursuers. Theo listened intently, nodding as she spoke. "The ring you found is more than just an artifact, it's a beacon," he explained once she finished. "It calls to those who seek its power." "What kind of power?" Jax asked, skepticism evident in his voice. "The kind that can alter reality itself," Theo replied gravely. "It's said to be connected to an ancient alien civilization that once roamed this galaxy." Eloan felt a chill run down her spine. "So we're not just dealing with treasure hunters?" "No," Theo confirmed. "There are factions out there who would do anything to possess that ring, some for good, others for destruction. A plan forms." Mira leaned forward, her eyes bright with determination. "We need to find out who these factions are and what they want with Eloan's ring before it's too late." "Agreed," Theo said, pulling out a map of the area and spreading it across the coffee table. "We can start by tracking any unusual activity related to alien artifacts." Eloan studied the map closely, her mind racing with possibilities. What if we could find out who sent that warning message? They might know more about what's happening. "That's a good idea," Mira said thoughtfully. "We could trace it back through phone records or digital footprints." "Then let's get started," Jack said, his skepticism replaced by resolve. We need to act fast before they come for us again. The search begins. The group sprang into action, each taking on their roles in this unexpected alliance. Mira sat at Theo's computer, typing furiously as she searched for any leads related to the message Eloan had received. Meanwhile, Eloan examined various artifacts scattered around the room. Each one seemed to tell its own story of adventure and discovery. Do you think anyone else has found rings like mine? Eloan asked Theo as she picked up an intricately carved stone. It's possible, he replied thoughtfully. But most people don't realize their significance until it's too late. Suddenly, Mira exclaimed from her seat at the computer. I've got something. There was a recent surge in communications from a group calling themselves the Seekers. They've been tracking alien artifacts for years. What do they want? Jax asked, leaning over her shoulder. They believe that whoever possesses the ring can unlock its full potential, Mira explained, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she pulled up more information. A new threat. Just then, a loud crash echoed from outside, causing everyone to freeze in place. Eloan felt her heart race as she exchanged worried glances with Jax and Mira. Stay quiet. Theo whispered urgently as he moved toward the window. Eloan followed him cautiously and peered outside to see several dark figures approaching the house, armed and determined. They've found us. Jax hissed under his breath. We need to hide. Mira urged as panic set in. Theo quickly led them down a narrow hallway toward a small basement door at the end of the corridor. This way. We can wait them out down there. Hiding in shadows. Eloan felt fear grip her heart as they descended into the darkness of the basement. The air was cool and musty, filled with shadows that danced around them as they huddled together. What if they find us? Jax whispered anxiously. They won't if we stay quiet, Theo reassured him while scanning their surroundings for anything useful. Eloan clutched her ring tightly, feeling its warmth against her skin, a reminder that it held secrets yet to be revealed. As they waited in silence, she couldn't shake off the feeling that this was just the beginning of something much larger than themselves, a journey that would test their courage and resilience in ways they could never have imagined. Secrets unveiled. A moment of calm. In the dim light of the basement, Eloan, Jax, Mira, and Theo huddled together, their breaths shallow as they listened to the chaos unfolding above them. The sound of footsteps and muffled voices echoed through the floorboards, sending shivers down Eloan's spine. She could feel the weight of the ring on her finger, a constant reminder of the danger they were in. Do you think they know we're here? Jax whispered, his voice barely above a murmur. I don't know, Mira replied, her eyes darting toward the door. But we can't stay here forever. Eloan nodded, her mind racing with thoughts about the ring and its significance. We need to find out what it really is and why those people want it so badly. Theo leaned closer, his expression serious. I have a friend who knows a lot about ancient artifacts and their connections to alien civilizations. If we can reach him, he might be able to help us understand what we're dealing with. The plan. Then let's do it, Eloan said, determination flooding her voice. We can't let fear control us. We need to take action. Mira glanced at Theo, who nodded in agreement. All right, here's the plan. We'll wait until things quiet down outside, then make a run for it. Theo will lead us to his friend's place. As they waited in silence, Eloan couldn't shake off the feeling that time was running out. The ring felt like a ticking bomb on her finger, and she knew they had to act quickly. After what felt like an eternity, the sounds above them began to fade. Eloan exchanged glances with her companions. It was now or never. Let's go. Theo whispered urgently as he opened the basement door and peeked outside. A dangerous escape. The coast seemed clear as they slipped out of the basement and into the hallway. They moved quickly but quietly, hearts pounding in their chests as they navigated through the darkened house. Stay close, Mira instructed as they reached the front door. We don't know if anyone is still around. Eloan felt a surge of adrenaline as they stepped outside into the cool night air. The moon illuminated their path as they hurried down the street, keeping low to avoid being seen. Over there. Jax pointed toward a narrow alleyway that led toward the main road. They ducked into it, trying to catch their breath for a moment. What now? Jax asked, glancing around nervously. We keep moving, Theo replied firmly. We need to get to my friend's place before they realize we're gone. As they continued down the alleyway, Eloan couldn't help but feel a sense of urgency wash over her. The ring pulsed gently on her finger as if urging her forward. An unexpected encounter. Just as they reached the end of the alleyway, Eloan spotted a figure standing near a streetlight, a tall man with dark hair and an intense gaze. He seemed to be waiting for them. Who is that? Mira whispered cautiously. I don't know, Theo replied warily. But we should be careful. The man stepped closer as they approached, his expression unreadable. You must be Eloan, he said calmly. I've been looking for you. How do you know my name? Eloan asked, suspicion creeping into her voice. I'm Orion, he introduced himself with a slight nod. I've been tracking the ring you possess. Eloan exchanged glances with her companions. This was not what she had expected. What do you want with it? She demanded. Orion's gaze softened slightly. I want to help you understand its power and protect you from those who seek to exploit it. Trusting a stranger. Eloan hesitated but sensed sincerity in Orion's voice. How do we know we can trust you? I understand your hesitation, Orion replied earnestly. But time is of the essence. There are forces at play that you cannot begin to comprehend, forces that would stop at nothing to obtain that ring. Mira stepped forward cautiously. What do you know about it? Orion took a deep breath before answering. The ring is an artifact from an ancient alien civilization known as the Alaris. It holds immense power, capable of bending reality itself, but it also attracts those who wish to use it for destruction. Eloan felt a chill run down her spine at his words. So those people chasing us. They are part of a faction called the Seekers, Orion explained grimly. They believe that whoever possesses the ring can unlock its full potential and gain unimaginable power. Then we have to get rid of it. Jax exclaimed. No, Orion interjected firmly. Destroying it would only unleash its energy in unpredictable ways. We need to find a way to contain its power and keep it safe. A new alliance forms. Eloan looked at her companions. She could see their uncertainty mirrored in their eyes but also a flicker of hope at Orion's words. All right, she said finally, making up her mind. We'll trust you, for now. Orion nodded appreciatively before leading them toward his vehicle parked nearby, a sleek black car that looked out of place on the quiet street. Get in, he urged as they climbed inside. As Orion drove through the darkened streets, Eloan felt both anxious and curious about what lay ahead. She had always been drawn to mysteries and adventure, but this was unlike anything she had ever experienced. What's our next move? Mira asked after a few moments of silence. We need to reach my contact who knows more about the Alaris civilization, Orion replied as he navigated through winding roads away from danger. He can help us understand how to control the ring's power. The road ahead. Eloan gazed out of the window at the passing scenery, trees blurred by darkness and streetlights casting fleeting shadows across their path. She couldn't shake off her unease, every instinct told her that danger was still lurking just beyond their reach. What if the Seekers find us again? Jax asked quietly. Orion glanced back at them through the rearview mirror, his expression serious yet calm. We'll be ready for them this time. Eloan took a deep breath and nodded. She knew they had no choice but to move forward together into this unknown territory filled with secrets waiting to be uncovered. As they drove deeper into the night, Eloan felt an unexpected sense of camaraderie forming among them, a bond forged through shared danger and uncertainty that would carry them through whatever lay ahead. The final confrontation. A race against time. The ship shook violently as Aelia maneuvered the controls, her eyes focused on the holographic display. Luke gripped the support beam tightly, his heart racing as he watched the pursuing ships close in on them. The ring on his finger pulsed with an otherworldly energy, synchronizing with the ship's systems as if it were alive. "We need to jump now," Aelia shouted over the roar of alarms blaring throughout the cockpit. "Hold on tight." Luke felt a rush of fear and excitement as Aelia pressed a series of buttons, activating the ship's warp drive. The world outside blurred into streaks of light, and for a moment, he felt weightless. Just as quickly, they were thrust back into reality with a jolt that knocked him off his feet. "Where are we?" Luke gasped, scrambling to regain his balance. "Somewhere safe," Aelia replied, glancing at the control panel. "For now." New surroundings. They had jumped to a remote location far from Earth, an uncharted planet with vibrant landscapes and swirling clouds that painted the sky in hues of orange and purple. Luke marveled at the beauty around them, but his thoughts quickly returned to the danger they had narrowly escaped. "What's next?" he asked, looking at Aelia. "We need to find a way to disable those ships," she said, her expression serious. "They won't stop until they have that ring." Luke nodded, determination flooding through him. "What can I do to help?" Aelia smiled faintly, appreciating his willingness to fight alongside her. "First, we need to gather information about their technology. If we can understand how they track us, we might find a way to outsmart them." Gathering intelligence. Aelia led Luke to a small chamber filled with advanced equipment and screens displaying various data streams. "This is our intelligence room," she explained as she began typing commands into a console. "We can tap into their communication channels and gather intel on their movements." As Aelia worked, Luke couldn't shake off the feeling of urgency. He glanced at the ring on his finger, it seemed to pulse in response to his thoughts, almost as if it were guiding him. "Do you think this ring can help us?" he asked hesitantly. Aelia paused and turned to him. "It's possible. The Alaris artifacts are known for their unique abilities. We just need to figure out how to harness its power." Tapping into power. With renewed purpose, Luke focused on the ring, trying to connect with its energy. He closed his eyes and concentrated, envisioning the power flowing through him. Suddenly, he felt a surge of warmth enveloping him, a connection that transcended time and space. "Luke!" Aelia called out, breaking his concentration. "I think I've found something." He opened his eyes to see a map of the enemy ships displayed on one of the screens. "They're regrouping," Aelia said urgently. "We need to act fast before they realize we're here." "What's our plan?" Luke asked. "We'll use your ring's energy to create a diversion," Aelia explained. "If we can draw their attention away from us, we can slip past their defenses and find a way to disable their ships." Preparing for action. Luke nodded, adrenaline pumping through his veins as they prepared for their mission. Aelia handed him a small device that resembled a remote control. "This will help you channel the ring's energy when we're ready." "Got it," Luke replied, feeling both anxious and excited about what lay ahead. As they made their final preparations, Luke couldn't help but think about how far he had come since discovering the ring in his workshop. What had once been an ordinary day had turned into an extraordinary adventure filled with danger and discovery. "Are you ready?" Aelia asked, breaking him from his thoughts. "Let's do this," Luke said firmly. The plan in motion. They boarded the ship once more and set course toward the enemy fleet hovering in orbit around the planet. As they approached, Luke could see the massive vessels glinting in the sunlight, each one bristling with weapons and technology far beyond anything he had ever encountered. "Get ready," Aelia instructed as they drew closer. Luke took a deep breath and focused on the ring again, feeling its energy coursing through him like electricity. He could sense its power waiting to be unleashed. "Now!" Alia shouted as she initiated their plan. Luke pressed the device in his hand, channeling the ring's energy into a brilliant beam of light that shot out toward one of the enemy ships. The beam struck true, causing an explosion that lit up the sky. Chaos erupts. The enemy fleet erupted into chaos as alarms blared and ships scrambled to respond to the sudden attack. Luke watched in awe as their plan unfolded perfectly, his heart raced with exhilaration at seeing their diversion work so effectively. "Keep it going," Alia urged as she piloted their ship through the confusion. Luke continued to channel energy from the ring, creating more distractions that drew attention away from them. He felt powerful, like he was tapping into something ancient and profound that connected him to forces beyond comprehension. Suddenly, an enemy ship broke away from formation and turned toward them with deadly intent. "They've spotted us," Alia shouted as she maneuvered sharply to avoid incoming fire. "I'll handle this," Luke declared as he focused on channeling even more energy into another beam aimed directly at their pursuer. Facing adversity. The beam struck the enemy ship with incredible force, causing it to veer off course and crash into another vessel nearby, a chain reaction that sent debris flying through space. "Yes! We did it!" Luke cheered triumphantly. But their victory was short-lived. More enemy ships were closing in on them rapidly. "Alia! We need an escape route," Luke shouted urgently. "I'm working on it," she replied frantically as she scanned for potential paths through the chaos surrounding them. Just then, another ship fired upon them directly. Luke braced himself for impact but felt an unexpected surge of energy from the ring protectively enveloping them just in time. "What was that?" Alia exclaimed in surprise. "The ring. It saved us," Luke realized with awe. The final stand. As they continued dodging enemy fire while executing daring maneuvers through space debris left by their earlier explosions, Luke felt a newfound sense of confidence wash over him, the realization that he wasn't just fighting for survival, he was fighting for something greater than himself. "We can't give up now," he shouted determinedly. With renewed resolve coursing through him like fire, Luke channeled all his focus into one final blast aimed at disabling the lead enemy ship, the one commanding their fleet. He pressed down hard on the device again. This time he poured everything he had into it, the hopes of humanity resting on his shoulders as brilliant light erupted from his ring once more.